Today I'm going to show you how to make house music in the style of Camelphat. So I'm off location today, as you can see, but I've had so many requests for Camelphat over the last few months that's what I'm going to do today. It's following on from my In the Style of series, and check out those other ones there because they're super popular and people seem to like them. If you do use Ableton Live, don't forget to download all of the samples and project file completely free below this video. We will be going into the kick and bass. We will be going into those Camelphat drums. We will be doing an epic chord progression. I'm a hero. I'm a villain. And creating all the little synths and vocal chops that Camelphat are famous for. I've got some exciting news. The doors to my 8-week masterclass are now open, and you can find out more below. If you want coaching, if you want to achieve things that my other students have achieved, like hitting #2 in the Beatport charts and even becoming full-time music producers, do check it out. If you like this video, smash like, subscribe to the channel, and without further ado, let's jump into the door and get it done. Okay, let's do it. House music in the style of Camelphat. First thing I'm going to do is select a suitable tempo. 1, 2, 3 sounds about right, and I'm going to call this Skinny Llama. Let's do it. So first thing, let's get that big chunky kick in there. I'm going to go and choose something that's not too kind of in your face and big and punchy, but it's quite solid, and I'm going to do it in MIDI because I might want to swap it out later. I'm going to choose just full sustain, only a little bit of release, and that is so that when I stop the MIDI drawing here, the kick actually stops as well, so it doesn't run on into where the open hats are going to go. Cool, boom, 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 boom. I'm not going to say I want you in my room because people have complained about Venga Boys references, so we're going to go boom, shake, shake, shake the room, Will Smith style. Cool. Okay, next thing we want to do is get that big fat Camelphat bass line. So I'm going to do this all in the Ableton Live stock plugins pretty much. I'll use a couple of free ones too, but we're going to make this lovely warm synth. Now I'm basing this roughly on Panic Room, but it doesn't really matter. They've got a similar vibe across all their recent tunes, which is good. So first thing I'm going to do is draw in a bass line. And I'm going to bass it in key of F minor, I think, which I think is what Panic's Room is in. So let's first draw it in. Right, now let's get that bass sound. So we'll start with a saw wave, we'll take the filter down. And we'll take the filter envelope down a bit. And make the decay a bit longer on that. Cool. Now let's add a sine wave to that. Some unison. Maybe a bit less on the envelope. Bit of attack on the filter envelope. And now let's add a free Camel Crusher kind of fattener saturator compressor on it. Take down some of those effects a bit. And okay, so on to the next thing. We are going to add more unison voices to that, just to make it a bit richer. And let's see if we can detune some of them. I mean, they are being detune. Let's make that wider by using this free plugin from Ozone called the Ozone Imager 2. And we'll don't worry about the sub frequencies being mono, we'll sort that out in a little while. Now I want this to sound richer, so what I might do is drop that down an octave so it's nice and bassy. There we go, that's the one. And this isn't going to be exactly the same as their track because I'm not trying to copy it, but I am using it as inspiration. So we've got this lovely fat sound just from the analog in Ableton Live. And I'll use the same pattern but change the notes for the second bit. Nice. Okay, so let's get one of their key signature sounds in, and that would be the syncopated synths. So before I do that, don't forget to download the project files and all the samples in this completely free. Give me a hell yeah or an amen brother, depending on how holy you're feeling, in the comments below. Cool. Sync synth. God, that's a bit of a mouthful. That's why I spelt it incorrectly. Never mind, eh? Right. So again, I'm going to use the analog for this. But you can use any kind of synth plugin. It's just nice to have everything in Ableton so you guys can download it without having to buy anything. Sync synth, sync synth. And I'm just going to choose 2 notes and repeat them over and over. And it's going to really roll on the groove of this tune. So. Except we'll make them half the length. So this is the cool thing about little syncopated riffs like this. So the kind of distance between each of the notes is the same, and if it's played on its own, you know, it just sounds repetitive, but when you bring the kick in, it kind of, you understand how it's kind of making the rhythm roll along. All right, let's Camelphat the shit out of this synth. Right, so first I'm going to take down this. Easy, job done. Right, then I'm going to add the harsh effect by using a delay, and this is something that you can do as well. I'm going to be testing this in mono to make sure it's not going all weird, but I'm going to basically take down the delay to a very small milliseconds. And choose stereo. Feedback 0. And I'll unlink these 2 left and right so we can make it slightly different in each, and it gives it this really wide, cool effect. You can hear when I check in mono by using my mono switch there. You can hear it does go a bit funny, so you have to get the timing right. And then you can actually automate some of these effects as you go, which is pretty cool. So we'll add some automation to that soon. Okay, then we'll add some auxiliary reverb. So I've set up these auxiliary channels here. I probably won't use the bass reverb. And the room reverb's just a really short decay, and I can feed in some of this synth to it. Okay, onto the drums, and we'll go back to that soon. So I want to create a kind of simple sounding groove for this Camelphat style of house, but it's actually quite complex in terms of layers and stuff. So the most important thing is really just to get the main sounds in. So that would be clap and then the open hats. So let's find some claps, just simple ones. Like quite short and sharp. And I'll just paste that on every clappy beat. I don't like that sound. Let's listen to some other ones. That's quite cool. Whoops. Don't replace the kick with that though. That's better. Okay, now we are going to add an arpeggio, and then we'll go back to some more of those kicks, those beats in a minute, but this is how we're going to bring in some of the tonality to the key, because we're doing it in F minor. So what you can do, and I'll use my template technique, I'm sure you've all seen this before, but I'll just do it really quickly. If you draw in every note in the key of F minor, then you can just use that press fold in Ableton and use that as a template. But yeah, let's first get a synth. Again, I'm going to use an analog. We might change that in a minute, but let's choose F. So all those notes are the key of F minor, or the scale of F minor natural. So if we just duplicate them down an octave by holding Alt Option, and then dragging it up if you're using a Mac, and then press fold, now we've got 3 octaves of F minor natural, and you can write in any notes there and it's going to sound pretty cool. So let's just draw in a chord, and I'll show you how we're going to use the arpeggio plugin to make it into an arpeggio. Whoops. Yeah, we want to grab them all, press left and get them out the way of the clip so you can't hear them play. And I'm going to draw chords in just by skipping every other note. But I'm starting on F as the first note because that's the root note of this scale. So we've got the 7th and the 9th in there. Nice chord. Right, let's make that into an arpeggio. I'm just going to extend that. In fact, I'll play it on. No, I'll just extend it. Yeah. Right, now let's get that arpeggio plugin. We go to MIDI effects, arpeggiator, and so you can hear it's playing each of them in sequence, and you can speed it up. So we'll go to nice, and again that's got the syncopated rhythm that just keeps looping. Now we're getting fat. Cool, we will be making all this sound better, but before we go into those new drums, in fact, no, let's just get those drums down because I want that groove going. I need to groove. I'm sure you need to groove too. So let's get some more drums. We'll go to drum hits and open. I'm going to choose some kind of shaker sound. Actually, no, I'm going to tweak this slightly and make it into a shaker sound by just making the attack slightly longer. So first let's program them in on every other beat. Why is that not showing? Because I've got fold selected. Sound selection is super important. If you spend the time choosing the right sounds, everything else is way easier. So all I've done with that hat is given it a slightly longer attack in terms of amplitude, and then I've pitched it up so now it's a lot higher. Now it's a shaker. Boom, boom, boom. Shake, shake the room. Okay, let's get that groove going. So I'm going to use an open hat, and I'm just going to drag that in and put that on every other beat. Sorry, on every other 16th. And I'm doing this rather than using a ready-made loop, just because I want to show you the process of making your own. With MIDI. So let's just copy that, turn it down a bit because it's a bit loud. So you can already hear we're getting that groove coming on now. Oh, what's that? Sorry, I think we need a ride cymbal. Yeah, I agree. Thanks for the tip. So let's get a ride. Weird. I'm feeling weird today. Let's use a weird one. If it sounds dodgy, we can always take it out. God, that sounds dark. Don't take it out. And we'll put this where the open is also going to go. And it's just, this is what I mean, that there are several layers, and we can tune this as well to be in tune with the track. Right, let's get an open An. Let's get an open hat there. I'll go to my favourites. Will's favourites. That's a pretty nasty sample, but I like it because I'm a little bit nasty sometimes. Right, let's get this. Just EQ out some of those nasty frequencies. Pan it slightly left. Just to clean up that open hat a bit. Right, if you want to make your kick a bit meatier, here's a top tip. I'm actually going to turn everything down a little bit, so we've got lots of headroom here. So yeah, I'm just going to drag it all down a few dB. And now let's beast this kick. Beast it, boy, beast it. So I'm going to use this Bark of Dog, which is another free plugin, and I'm just going to find the fundamental frequency of the kick and of the track, sorry, and then boost the kick like this, and then rein it back in a bit. So this is off and this is on. It just gives more oomph, some lower harmonics, sub-harmonics. Might be a bit much, you know. Cool, let's add some more width to this bass. Now the way we could do that is actually by duplicating this or grouping that bass synth, whoops, like so. We'll just turn off the original one, and what we're going to do is change the routing here. So we've got both amps in use, both filters in use, but they're not so important as the amps. And then I'm going to pan one left and one right. Oh, I've done it on the wrong blimming synth, haven't I? That's the trouble. Always name your synths, otherwise you run into errors like this. That was my sync synth. I'm actually just going to call this sync synth too, so to make sure I don't make that mistake again. Right, bass. Let's call it bass. So, as I was saying, group that, duplicate the chain, Command and D, turn off the original, and then let's just kind of detune these bad boys. Whoops, and pan them left and right. But we'll have to make sure that our routing is done again. So you can hear that's much wider now. And now when we mix that in with the original, we've got a super duper wide bass. We could even put that little flourish that they have in theirs. Do 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 do. I can't be bothered. Deal with that. Okay, on to the next thing. I'm going to add more to this groove. I'm going to add a little bit of texture. I'm going to call this texture loop. And this is something I learned from Chris Lake a long time ago, is that if you're looking through drum loops, you don't need to use the whole loop. You could just, if there's one sound in there that you love the texture of, you can just kind of chop it out and use that if it's going to add to your loop. So let's get the drums on their own. And we're going to add a little kind of effecty blip first, like this. Let's go into effects hits. That's cool, like a little sound. So let's just add some of those in. And change the velocity a bit, so the volume. Just to add some more interest, I'm going to duplicate that, take it way down in the mix. But you can hear it just adds some interest to it. Then I'm going to throw an auto panner on that. The Sound Toys auto panner is better than this. It's called Pan Man, but this will do for now. Just to get it bouncing around a bit. And now in terms of this texture loop, I'm just going to go to some drum loops. So I'll just pick some old one. I want some kind of low end, like just some low end bongo, just to give a little bit of extra energy in that low end of the drums. So if we take it right down, and that's all we're going to use, the first bit, and then we're going to loop it. And we could even use another one of these ozone images to pan it way out. And one thing more I'm going to do to add to this is a little vocal kind of sound in the key of the track. So this is again just adding a little bit of complexity to make it sound DAF, dope as fantastic. Right, that'll do. Like really old rubbishy quality sample, doesn't matter, don't care mate, not bothered. We just want the little kind of first bit. So I will just consolidate that and then put up the, transpose it a bit. Is that the right key? Yeah. And I'm going to do this on every snare. And you can play with the formants. Like that, play with the formant. And I'm just going to put this on every snare hit or clap hit. And add some hall reverb, some room reverb to it. Nice, lots of it. And I'm going to add one more texture loop, which is actually going to be like a chord. So if we go into song samples, and we need it to be in key with the track, so I'm going to choose something in the key of F minor. Let's see. Cool. And we're just going to loop a very small section of it, like the drum loop. And just copy it, paste it, keep it nice and low in the mix. So you can hear this getting some real atmosphere in there now. Okay. That sync synth needs some noise in it. So you can hear how you can add some noise, and when you start automating that too. Cool, okay, on to the breaky bit, because yeah, we've still got lots to do, but we've got the main groove going and we will be going back to make it better. So I'm going to switch out into the big chord changes which Camelphat tend to have in their breaks, which sounds awesome. Orson Welles, very popular author. So all we're going to do for that is kind of elongate the chord progression, but hit the same notes. I'm not going to sing, don't worry, we're going to find a vocal too. Actually, I will sing. Tough luck. And then we're going to add some organs as well to kind of build this sound out. Right, let's make this chord loop, because if you hear, these are still in the same key, so it sounds awesome with the arpeggio, with the sync synth. All works together. I think I may have just had a heart melter. It may have happened to you. If so, ring this hotline now for help. Okay. Okay, we are going to add those organ chords. And the way I'm going to do that is just go into sounds, because again, I would usually use third-party synths and stuff like that, but you can do an awful lot with the stock plugins in any DAW really. Okay, we are going to go into synth keys, and I'm going to choose an organ. Let's see if they've got organs here. I like that, but I'm going to take out the extra. It sounds like they've kind of pitched some of them up to the 7th. Let's see. I'm just making my life difficult using that. Okay, so. I'm just going to write organ in and see what it comes up with. That'll do. So let's just copy the bass line, and this is how we're going to build out our chords nice and easily. We're just going to count up, and you can use the template technique as well. If you take the notes from there and stick them in here, but just put them to the side and then press fold, then it's going to be easier to build these chords. Actually, I'm going to change this from a minor to a major. So they're the main chords that we're going to kind of work on. And the way we're going to do this is build them out. So I'm going to add a seventh to them. And a ninth. And you can see I'm just skipping one note in the scale each time. Ooh, nice. And I might leave that one the same at the top. Add some continuity. Add the ninth, and I think I'll change the seventh to be the octave above the root. Gives it a slightly different quality. And then I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to do some chord inversions. So all I'm going to do is copy some of the notes down an octave just by holding shift and pressing down. So it's the same chords, but all the notes are closer together, so it'll give it a more kind of jazzy feel. Which sounds a bit weird and discordant, but when you add the bass notes in to anchor what the chords actually are, it actually starts making sense to your ears. Maybe retro harmonic organ would be better for my needs. Nope, I want the weird one. It's more atmospheric. We're going to add some hall reverb to that on the auxiliary channel, just a longer reverb, just to make it sound bigger. Maybe take it up an octave. Now we are going to add a vocal. So I'm going to do this on Splice. It's worth noting that masterclass students get a month free on Splice. So again, check out the link below for more info on the masterclass. But this is what we're going to look up. We're going to look up vocal, and I'm going to look up female, and I'm going to look up F minor, and we're going to see what's happening. We're just going to kind of play some over the top until we find something that sounds like good. That's cool. Oh, that could be the one. I don't know what she's saying. because it says Japanese. I don't know if she's actually singing in Japanese because I can't hear properly. So let's get that in there, because that was a definite heart melter, no doubt. No doubt. Ah, see, I got so excited, I literally, you know, just started moving all of the windows. Calm yourself, boy. Okay, that's 110 BPM, it says here. So we're going to just warp it 110, and now it's going to be chosen Complex Pro. It's the nicest algorithm for vocals most of the time. Alright, it sounded better on Splice. The trouble with this recording is it's just not a great recording. You know, there are some really kind of really harsh frequencies in there, so let's just quickly get rid of some of them. I mean, you can see these resonant peaks like here, so we're gonna just take that down a bit with the... and again there's another one around there, so let's just get that, take it down. Narrow Q, thank you very much. Form an orderly Q. Whoa. There. So we'll stick one more in and we'll take down that harsh frequency. And narrow Q. Gosh, she just keeps on going, doesn't she? So this is without it on. I'll loop this bit because you'll hear the difference more here. So you can see we've taken out some of those harsh frequencies. Cool, so let's add some compression because it's quite a peaky track. So let's do that quickly, just to even it out a bit. Gonna warm it up a bit. I'll add some EQ to the top end. Just add some air. Now let's listen to it. Add some hall reverb. See, I'd really like to add a de-esser to this, but because I'm using stock plugins only, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is kind of tone it down a bit using something like a, let's see, a chorus to kind of take out some of those frequencies. Just kind of smooths it out a bit. So there we have it. That's pretty much it. I'm going to change these notes here to sound epicer. And I'm going to just fade them in a bit there. And add something on the old reverberoo. Oh no, what did I just do? Oh, I just hid them, that's all. And then I'm going to add some delay on there as well. I'm going to use this lovely delay that comes with its echo. 100% wet because it's on an auxiliary channel. If you want more info on all of this stuff and a load more, then the masterclass is worth checking out, because I can only go into so much depth here. And now I'm going to do one more cool little trick, this vocal chop, and it's going to go something along the lines of, let's just make sure we've got an input selected, core device, microphone, edit, okay, cool, it's recording. And this is to do like one of their cool little fills that they do, which is quite interesting. We do camel, we do camel, there we go, lovely job. We do. Now let's stick that in line. And we'll do that at the end. And we're going to add one more clap as well, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Excuse me. Scooby-Doo. We do. So this, we're going to turn this into a kind of rhythmic thing. So I'm going to just consolidate it. I'm going to just use a click track to get the timing right. I'm going to take it down an octave, play with, whoops, in Complex Pro, play with the formants. We do camel whip, we do camel, we do camel whip, we do camel, we do camel whip, we do camel. It's just a weird kind of effect that we're going for, so it doesn't matter, you can't hear what's being said, because frankly what's being said is utter bollocks. We do camel. We do camel whip, we do camel, we do camel whip, we do camel whip. But the timing is important. We do camel whip, we do. And I'm holding command and then double clicking, and it makes one of these warp nodes. We do camel whip, we do camel whip, we do camel whip, we do camel. 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 Cool. Now I'm just going to stick a bit of EQ on there. Get rid of the bass. It's a little bit too fast. I'll just pull it across slightly. That's a bit better. And now we're going to add a little bit of compression. Let's take down the original sample in volume because we've got some clipping. We do camel whip, we do camel, we do camel whip. We do camel whip, we do camel, 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 we do camel whip, we do camel. It's annoying me. Stop annoying me. Right, anyway, I'll take it down in volume, and then I'm going to add another one of these ozone images. Okay, I'm not happy with that, so I'm going to consolidate it again and I'm going to get the timing bang on. That's better already. And then I'm going to add some interesting kind of width to it by using another one of these echoes, and we're going to just kind of make it sit in its own space. Just to make it sound weird and echoey, really wide. So this is how it might look in terms of a kind of intro to the break. We need like a pad there as well. One more pad, then we're done. Okay, so I'm just going to add a sustained pad to add some lovely depth there. What shall I use? I think let's use a sample, because we haven't really done that today. And we like to spice things up a bit, keep it spicy. Synth, just one. Okay, we're going to use this. We're going to change it to a sampler, and then we're going to add a sustain and a little loop, and it's going to sound a bit weird, and we'll crossfade it, but we're basically making a pad for ourselves. And then I'll add a bit of attack on that pad. So let's see what's going on. So we're making our own pad. And we're going to make a chord. And then we're going to use inversions. Whoops, we need to make sure that we can play more than one note at the same time. So voices, 8. Maybe an octave up. And then put a couple of notes down, an octave, to do these inversions, sorry. That's a horrible sound. Let's choose something a bit smoother. We're going to pads. That would have made sense, right? Blade Runner, yeah. No, 2. Let's try that. Needs to be up a few octaves. Let's see how that sounds, if it's the right. It's not tuned to C, that's why. It's tuned to D. Okay, so that's the pad that we're going to use. We're going to just extend that all along, and we're going to smooth it out a bit with some EQ. Let's do that. And this is really a background sound that's going to be. So now listen to that layered underneath everything else. It just brings this depth in. And then I think that's it, we're good to go. Okay. That's a bit weird, this one. Let's just work on that a bit. Let's add some saturation to that, make it a bit more interesting. So we'll add a bit of redux, which is a bit reducer. Let's make sure it's nice and wide. Okay. And I'm going to shift this slightly. I'd get different vocals. I'd actually send this to a singer if I was to continue it, but I won't because it's too similar to Panic Room. But that is how you produce in the style of Camelphat. I hope you've enjoyed this, guys. Don't forget, Masterclass is now open. Download all of these samples and the project file completely free below this. And until next time, thanks for watching, cheers, and happy producing.